Wouldn't it be great if you could attract anything you want easily and effortlessly? Wouldn't it be great if you could know how to make the best decisions for you all the time? And wouldn't it be great if you could create a life that you actually want to live? One that makes you jump out of bed in the morning and excited to get started? Well, the good news is you can when you learn who you are, when you learn who you really are, to know yourself, love yourself, and practice self care through understanding your energetic blueprint or your human design. Today, my name is Grace Gravestock with New Paradigm Transitions, and I'm excited to share with you one of the most important things that you will ever learn. And this is, what is your decision making strategy in your chart? What this translates to in plain English is how to make the best possible decisions for you all the time. And when you think about how much time and money we've all wasted by making what we would think of as bad decisions or decisions that took us on a detour of some sort, we can appreciate that knowing how to make the correct decisions for us can really save a lot of time and money. So that's what I want to do today, is help you learn about what your chart says about your decision making strategy. It's called your authority, and everybody's might be different. There's a lot of different ways. That's what this image here shows. A lot of variety. So what we'll cover today, how to make the best decisions for you. We'll talk about what is inner authority. I like to call it inner GPS. What are the most common types of authority? And then we'll have time for some Q&A. If you don't already have a chart in front of you, please download a free chart now at freehumandesignchart.com. And if you already have your chart and this is not new to you, it might be of interest to download a chart of a family member, maybe a partner or a child or someone close to you, and you can be learning about them as well. And that will definitely help you to understand them better, and it will improve your relationship when you understand how you make decisions and how they make decisions and how that might be a different. And in fact, it's probably going to be different because we're attracted to people that are opposite of us. It's the genetic imperative that human design shows us when we put two charts together, usually of partners. So all that to say, get a chart. If you don't have one right now, that'll make this a lot more useful to you. Let's jump in. My name is Grace Gravestock. I have been a professional change manager for about 20 years. I went through a lot of big changes in my life about 5 years ago when my husband at the time put a knife to my neck. I had to leave in a hurry. That ended in divorce. I got laid off right after the divorce was final. And to top it all off, I had horrible migraine headaches. I'd had them for 18 years. It was finally time to face them and just get over it. I was so done. I wanted to check out. I wanted to die, and I just really was not sure I wanted to go on even one more day. Thankfully, I had just moved in with friends. They urged me to get a human design reading. It absolutely changed everything for me. Why? Because I realized I'm not broken. I'm perfect the way I am, and so are you. And your human design chart shows you exactly what that is, so you don't have to trust me or someone else. The point of human design is it teaches us to look inside of ourselves where we have all the answers. We no longer have to give up our power to another authority, another person or entity outside of ourselves, but we can truly live in alignment, knowing once we understand who we are, how to make the best decisions for us, how to make life fun and easy, how to be in the flow all the time. So these things and more are what will be yours when you learn about your human design. As I had been a professional change manager, I decided once I got my chart and then I wanted to keep going, wanted to live, I thought, let's just try this out. Maybe it'll get better. I decided, let me practice on myself, on my personal transformation or my change management stuff on my own personal transformation. And what I realized was that the missing component was energy. No one in my corporate experience working for big countries and big companies all around the world had ever talked about energy and the important role that it plays in helping people change. And this was after many years being a professional change manager and learning from some of the best and working for the big name companies. So it was a big aha for me. And as I learned about energy and frequency and that everything is frequency, wow, that just changed my world. And I want to introduce to you today some of the things that can change your world. It's absolutely life-changing information. I'm thrilled to be offering it for you today because my vision is to positively impact 5 billion people by 2025 through the Know Yourself revolution. Because look at this, if 5 billion people were living in alignment with their design, just imagine how amazing this world would be and how happy people would be. So how happy we all would be, a lot different world. So that's my vision, and I'm working towards it. So I thank you for being a part of it, and I ask you to share this information, share what you've learned, talk about it with your friends and family, um, get a book, hire a coach, get a reading, whatever it takes, whatever resonates with you. I'm not going to hard sell you anything. I want you to listen to your own inner guidance system. And today, that's what we're going to talk about. So this is part of what I understand is the basics of how to read your chart. We are doing a series here that is part of a larger conversation about understanding your purpose based on your human design. And today we're going to focus on authority. It's also called inner authority. It's also something I call inner GPS, just because it makes a lot more sense to me. And if you're looking at a chart, a traditional human design chart, this is where you'll find it. It'll say authority or inner authority. And for me, that is sacral. It means my gut. We're looking at this for me, and we'll look at some of the other pieces for you because everybody is probably different. So here we go. Key message, we must start this off with the message from human design that there is no one size fits all. We're all different. And I will also add, we're all fast evolving. So even though human design absolutely provides important answers for who we are and where we've been, it explains a lot about why we've had certain things that have happened to us. And it doesn't take into account everything. And one of the most important things to recognize is that we are all evolving very fast and changing. And so human design gives us a good starting point, and know that you're not locked in. It's not a box that you have to, get hidden inside. It is a starting point for understanding your energetic wiring and how you're dynamically created to be a beautiful being of light. And I want to share with you how to make the best decisions for you. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. This is an image that shows the different types of what we call inner authorities, emotional and sacral. This is kind of in a way that shows the most common to the left and the least common to the right. So if you're emotional, that's the most common. Sacral and splenic, most common. Those are the ones we're really going to focus on today. And we will touch on some of these if it makes sense. So here we go, how to make the best decisions for you. Let's start with your inner authority for a generator. Generators are the most common type, and we as a whole, generators and manifesting generators make up about 70% of the population. It's very important that you understand, if you're a generator, that your strategy is to wait for something to respond to. This is shortened to say wait to respond. And it means that we're not here to initiate. And this is an important component to understand when you look at how to make decisions, because if you're a generator type, there's only two ways that you're going to make decisions, and it's in your body. Notice that this is what we call a body graph. It's a human design energy blueprint. It's a representation, and there's obviously different kinds depending on who puts them out. But this one is from mybodygraph.com. It was one of the places I first started learning about human design. And what it represents is that what I want you to notice about this image is that your mind is up here, okay? For all of us, obviously, our mind is in the head, right? And we're conditioned and programmed to think that we need to make a decision from using our brain. We've been told over and over and over, use your brain, use your head. Like, are you stupid? Make a decision with your head. And so we're told that this is how to make a decision. But actually, that's not true. And you'll know that this is not true if you think back to a time when you made a decision that looked right on paper. It made a lot of sense in your brain, but you had a feeling. Whether or not you think of it as your gut or your emotions or your spleen, it doesn't matter. You had a feeling that it should be something else, but you didn't listen to that. You didn't listen to your internal guidance system. You listened to what made sense on paper and what your thinking mind told you. And it cost you what you might perceive as a lot of problems or money or time or hassle or whatever it was. And so what I want you to understand is that we're conditioned and programmed to make our decisions from our heads, but we're actually designed to make our decisions from our bodies. Why? Because our bodies are amazing. There's so much more about our bodies that most of us don't even know. And what human design teaches is that your inner guidance system is actually below the belt for most people. So that's funny, right? It's hard to believe, but for most people who are generators, they're going to be making their decisions from either their sacral or their emotional solar plexus. So we'll get into that in just a second, but just to make sure we cover the field for anybody who might be watching right now, we want to make sure that you understand there's variety. We're a beautiful species with lots of variety. Projectors are a relatively new type on the scene. I think they came into being I think about a couple hundred years ago, according to human design. So they have not always been, but they have the greatest variety of what we call authorities, or the way to make decisions. So you'll see emotions, intuition, will, identity, and sounding board. These are the different ways that a projector can make a decision. So if they have this one defined, this is the solar plexus, that'll be emotions. If they have the spleen defined here, then it'll probably be spleen. They'll be called splenic, and it'll be their intuition. If their will center is defined, then that would be they're making decisions from their heart. Basically, these are both representations of the heart chakra, and the second one is their identity. So you might be making your decisions based on your identity. And the sounding board technique is what we recommend for people who have what's called no authority. And you might, if you're a projector or a reflector, you might have on your chart no authority. And what that means is that you need to hear yourself speak in order to know what is correct for you. It's not about getting advice. It's not about broadcasting to the world everything about your life. What it's about is you hearing your own voice. And so that's what the sounding board technique is. And that is a type of authority for people for whom it says there's no authority. The manifestor types are meant, oh, forgot something. Projector strategy is to wait to be recognized and invited. The two most important things about human design, I mean, if this is your first class, or even if it's your 50th class, it's always worth reminding you that the two most important things about human design are your strategy and your authority. And so your authority is what we're talking about today, but it goes very much hand in hand with your strategy. And so that's why I've included these images that show you. So for projectors need to wait to be recognized and invited. And then when they get the correct, what feels good to them, an invitation that feels good, then they listen to their inner guidance system, and which is going to be one of these. And if it feels good to them, if it feels yummy, then that's probably correct for them. So that's a projector. Manifestors, by the way, projectors make up about 20% of the population. Manifestors make up about 9%. So the very small, almost the smallest group. Strategy for a manifestor is to inform before taking action. Why is that? Because they have a very powerful aura, a very powerful energetic field. And when they are moving, they're here to start something new. They're here to initiate, and they are powerful beings. And it's important that they inform before taking action, because that informing lets people know to get out of their way, basically. And if people don't get out of their way, then they feel what's perceived as anger. It's not perhaps 100% accurate to call it that, but a lot of people will perceive it that way. But it's really, you're getting in the way of a manifestor's flow. And so they will, they will kind of react, because they're like, hey, get out of my way. I'm trying to do this thing here and you're in my way. So that's why the manifestors need to inform before taking action in order to maintain what for them is their natural state, which is peace. They really want peace, and they're here to start something new to allow that. So if you're a manifestor, or you have a manifestor in your life, the possible authorities for them will be their emotions. Again, the solar plexus over here, the spleen, they'll be called splenic, and that's the intuition here, or the will center, which is part of the heart chakra. And last but not least, the reflector. My sister Rama is a reflector, and I've met quite a few reflectors actually, and I used to think they were all 5-1s because everyone that I met was a 5-1, and then recently I've met 2-3-5s. So I now know that reflectors come in all profiles, and their strategy is to wait and discuss. So they are what we call a lunar being, and they're on a 28-day cycle. It means they need time to make the best decisions for them. So that's what their authority says, lunar cycle, or it might say inner no authority on the chart, depending on where they got the chart from. What you'll notice about reflectors is they're very incredible beings. They've got open centers. All these open centers means that they are going to amplify the energy of the other, and they're also going to potentially absorb the energy of the other. So it's very important for reflectors to be conscious of what they're taking in. Remember that any center that you have open, whether you're a reflector or not, is here to show you what you're here to become wise about. And in order to develop wisdom, it requires you to have a variety of experiences. And so when you feel, for instance, this reflectors are also always going to be empaths because they have an open solar plexus. And so they're going to feel other people's emotions. And when they do, the question to ask is this mine? So in any of your centers, this is important for you to recognize when you're feeling emotions and you have an open solar plexus, is this mine? When you have inspirations, you're going to be questioning, is this mine? If you have you're having these thoughts and you have an open ajna, this was what we call the mind, then you're going to say, is this mine? Because the thing is, you want to be an empowered being and consciously choose what to accept. And there's nothing wrong with feeling someone else's emotions and exploring and experiencing it with them. Go ahead and, let the tears fall and fly and flow with them if you want that. But if you don't want that, all you have to say is, this is not mine, into yourself, inside yourself. This is not mine. And boom, like an energetic wall, it will just come down and you will not have to feel all those emotions that somebody else is broadcasting just because you have an open solar plexus. So remember that you are a powerful being, and it's up to you to be conscious and aware of what you let into your beingness, what you pick up. So your centers make it easy for you to pick up. Like if you're a reflector, you're going to be picking up everything potentially. But when you're a conscious and aware reflector, you're going to recognize when you're feeling an energy and say, is this mine? If it is, great, feel it or experience it. And if it's not, maybe you want to experience it, but maybe you don't. And all you have to do is say, this is not mine. And you can put an energetic shield up and not have to get other people's stuff all over your field. It's an important skill set to develop for any of us, but particularly for reflectors. Let's go ahead and jump into the most common type of authority, which is the solar plexus. So on your human design chart, whatever the representation is, there's going to be an energy center to the far right. It's called your solar plexus, and it's considered your inner authority. If you have this colored in, then this will always trump this. If you're a generator being, you have this colored in, you're also going to have this colored in, and don't let that confuse you. It means you have access to both inner guidance systems, but this one trumps this one. So let's talk about it. When this is defined for you and or it says emotional authority on your chart, what it means is that you're meant to experience life in a very emotionally rich way. It means that you're designed to have the highs and the lows and the everything in between. And yes, there's variations. Some people have high highs and very low lows, and they might put a label on you like manic depressive or whatever. Like they might have labels for you. But it doesn't matter. The point is, your design is to experience life in a very emotionally rich way, which is going to look and feel like an emotional wave, which is going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. When you make a decision inside the emotional wave, it's going to be a different decision than if you made the decision once the wave has crashed. If you think about the wave as a wave on the ocean, it gets really big, you could surf the wave, and then eventually it crashes on the seashore, and it just calms right down and peters out. Once that wave peters out, that's what you will recognize as clarity if you're emotionally defined. So it can take time to get to this clarity. So it's important that you learn patience. In fact, that is one of the lessons that you're here to learn if you have an emotional solar plexus colored in or defined. It means that you're here to master those emotions so that they do not overcome you, but you master them, so you feel your feelings, you feel your emotions, you let them guide you in making the best decisions for you, but you don't let them overpower you. So you're always in control, and that is what you're here to master when you have a solar plexus emotional authority, inner authority, when this one's colored in. So it benefits you to sleep on it. If you have a decision to make, get in the habit of giving yourself space. Let people know, you know what, I never make decisions immediately. I like to sleep on it, and just give me 24 hours or 48 hours or a week, whatever you need. Most people with emotional authority can make a decision within a couple of days, a good decision. I mean, there's always variations, and of course, if you're a reflector, that's a very different story. But what we're talking about here is if you have your solar plexus colored in, it means that you're meant to become aware of your emotions so that you can see the patterns and you can know where you are at any given point. Here's the way I like to look at it. Now, I'm not emotionally defined, but I've lived with people who are. And in fact, I'm drawn to people who are emotionally defined because that's the opposite of me, because I'm sacrally defined and I'm open here. So I'm very familiar, and I'm speaking from my own experience when I say this. The emotional authority or solar plexus roller coaster is just like that. It's like a roller coaster. And when I was a kid, I used to live in Santa Cruz, or near Santa Cruz, California, and there was a big roller coaster called the Big Dipper. And I don't remember riding it enough times to really know where it goes up and down, to really master it. But I do remember, there's obviously key parts where it goes really high and then really low. And so if you think of your emotional wave like a roller coaster, then eventually you'll start to get familiar with how long it takes for the roller coasters to start and end for you, and how high the highs get and how low the lows get, so that at any given point when you're on that roller coaster, that emotional roller coaster, when you're trying to make a decision and you're feeling all this emotion, you will be able to ride the wave of that and know where you are in your cycle. It's almost like women who have a moon cycle. Like, I know this is true, but I have yet to perfect it myself. So I'm speaking from experience, knowing that it is powerful to know when your cycle is, and you know that you're the most powerful when you're on your cycle, which is different than what the world teaches us usually. But the point is, when you understand where you are on your cycle, you can make better decisions. So whether it's your moon cycle or your emotional authority cycle, your roller coaster of your emotional wave, the point is, if you're conscious and aware and you know what that trajectory looks like, you can make way better decisions because you can recognize at any given point, wait a second, I'm still in the middle of my roller coaster. I can't make a decision here, because if I did, it'd be a very different decision than when I get off the roller coaster. So know that you're here to master this energy. That's the reason that you have emotional authority. It's for you to master emotions. And this gives you an opportunity by going up and down, up and down, up and down. Every time you try to make a decision, it gives you an opportunity to master that energy so that eventually you get to the place where you control it doesn't control you. So that's really key for you to understand if you have emotional authority. And that is the most common. About 50% of the population have that. Now, just less than 50% have sacral authority. Well, this is in terms of generators. All generators have either emotional or sacral, and just a few more have emotional than sacral. So it's almost a 50-50 split. If you don't have your emotional authority, and it says sacral for you, then your inner GPS is your gut. And it looks like this. This is a representation of it. You're looking for a yes or no. Anytime you're making a decision, regardless of your type, regardless of your authority, you want to ask yourself questions that will, well, at least, especially if you're a generator, that will give you a yes or no answer. So is this good? Is this for my best and highest good to spend time with this person? Is this job for my best and highest good? Is this exercise the most important thing for me to do right now with my time? So you're asking yourself a yes or no question. And if you listen, you're going to recognize that your body gives you sounds. Now, these sounds were conditioned out of me actually early in my marriage because I used to be all the time. And my husband was very proper, my ex-husband, and he was from another country, and he would always chastise me for making sounds. He said, "No, it should be yes, ma'am, or no, sir. Or, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes or no, sir, whatever. You're supposed to be polite, so you're supposed to use words, no, not sounds." So I got those sounds conditioned and programmed out of me. But if that was the case for you, I want to encourage you to revisit that and start to listen to your body, because your body speaks. And this is where listening to your body makes all the difference in the world when you're wanting to make the best decisions possible for you. So if this is colored in for you, even if you also have the emotional solar plexus, you can tap into this as well. So the yes or no questions is true for you. That's also true for you. It's just that if you're emotionally defined, it may take more time for you to get clarity. But the point here is, if you have sacral authority, you're meant to become aware of your gut feeling again, so you can see the patterns and feel it in your body. I can't tell you how many of my sacral clients have had gut issues, myself included. It took me 2.5 years to rebuild my gut flora after having skin cancer. I healed myself of 250 cancerous moles all over my body. And of course, that involved rebuilding my gut, rebuilding my digestive system, rebuilding my immune system. And so, why do I mention that? Because I am here, because I have a sacral authority. I'm here to master my gut, master my sacral, listen to my body. And so it took going through those health challenges. And I make this point because I want you to see the connection. I'm a connector. I like to connect ideas. And if you haven't thought of this, this is really can be really profound to help you understand what you're going through if you have any health issues related to your gut. So if you have a sacral authority, remember, you're meant to master this energy, and you're meant to listen to your body. And if you have issues in your gut, or anything or in that area, it's probably your body giving you a message. Hey, listen to your body, get into your body, stop trying to escape, stop trying to go somewhere else. That was the message I was getting from my body, and that's what the headaches were telling me: get into your body. So you might feel this as a physical thing. Some of my clients actually are really tuned in, and they can like literally feel in their stomach, like upset stomach if it's a no, or they feel like clarity if it's a yes. I mean, it's going to be a little different for anyone, but what you want to do is start to become aware of what does your gut feel like when you're making these decisions, and listen to the sound. It's as simple as that. If you have kids and their sacral authority or their generator types, asking them yes or no questions and asking them to make sounds is one of the most important things you can do as a parent, because if you can help them learn to make the best decisions possible for them in alignment with their design, oh my gosh, you're going to save them so much time and hassle and pain. Because remember, for a generator type who has sacral authority, they are meant to wait for something to respond to. When they're in alignment, they're going to feel satisfied, and when they're out of alignment, they're going to feel frustrated. So imagine not listening to your body, making a decision from your mind, and then having a lot of pain of bad relationships, pain of wasting a lot of money trying to fix a problem or whatever it is. It really makes a big difference to be able to know how to make the best decisions for you. And so again, if you have kids that have a sacral defined, this is probably one of the most important things that you can share with them. If you have splenic authority, it's about 10% of the population. It means that your spleen is colored in here, and it means that you're broadcasting a feel-good energy. And so people probably really like being around you if you have your spleen defined. Now, if you're a generator type, you can have your sacral defined and your spleen defined, or your sacral and your emotions and your spleen. But if whatever you have, remember that the hierarchy is always the emotional wave takes precedence. So this emotions trumps this or this anytime. The emotional wave is always the most powerful. And again, that's why I was explaining why. It's because you're here to master that emotional energy. And you're also meant to master your sacral energy as well, but it's just to know that don't get confused. It took me a couple of years to figure that out, so I'm trying to give you a shortcut here. Don't be confused. It means you have access to all three, like if all three of these are defined for you and your generator type, but the emotions are always going to trump. If you don't have emotions, sacral is going to trump spleen. Splenic knowing is really it's really only applicable to the non-generator types. And so if you have splenic inner authority, what that means is it's an instant knowing. It's just like it's like that still small voice. If you grew up in a religion like I did, I grew up in conservative Christianity, and my mom was always saying, listen to that still small voice, listen to the Holy Spirit. So if that resonates with you, that small voice is your spleen. It can be your spleen, and your spleen is saying, "Hey, get out of here. This is not safe," or "This feels good." And so it's an instant knowing, and if you don't listen carefully, it doesn't usually repeat. So this is why taking time alone, being quiet, is important. I mean, I say this, I have a defined throat. It's very challenging for me to take enough quiet time. I always like to be singing or talking or listening to something, but in order for you to listen to your spleen, you have to have quiet time so that you can hear what your spleen is saying. And it's going to be saying it in real time. So if you're not incorporating quiet time into your regular routine, you're going to miss a lot. And so if your chart says splenic authority, then please play with this, practice. So the keynotes of this: spontaneity, instinctive, intuitive awareness. It's in the now. It's about survival and health and well-being. That's the energy of the spleen. And it's like an instinct advisor. And so you recognize it, and then you trust your instincts. And your instincts are coming from your spleen, which is here to protect you. It's part of the chart that in the past was all about physical protection, but for most of us, we're not worried about running from a lion most of the time, even though the boss or the partner or the kids might feel like that. But the point is, you need some quiet time. You may need some quiet time to listen to what the spleen has to say, and it's going to be instant. And if you don't listen, then you're going to miss it. So those are the main kinds. There's a fraction of people that have something different, but that if you have a different situation and you want to get a reading, or you want to do you have a question, we can talk about it. But for the most part, that covers just about everyone. And so we've talked about what is inner authority, what are the most common types of authority, and now we're going to have time for some questions. Before we jump into that, let me just say that if you want personalized help, go to my website, askgrace.info. It's really just a scheduling page, and it's there that you can schedule yourself a mini human design reading. You can get, which is about 30 minutes. You can do a deep dive, which is usually 2 hours, although I am creating another product that I'm going to launch at the end of the week, which is a recorded half-hour personalized reading of your chart. And so if you wanted to have conversation and process and a lot more complexity, then any of these other packages, they're usually these are all 2 hour. Actually, this one is a 3 hour, but it's longer. But if you just want a personalized human design reading and you want to get the most in the shortest amount of time for the best possible price, I am offering this week $77 for a half hour recorded. And so you'll send me your chart. I'm getting that set up on my scheduling page. I'm going to change what it says for a mini human design reading. So you'll give me your information, and you'll give me the question or the thing that you're working on. And then I'm going to tailor the reading to you. I'm going to give you a recording of me looking at your chart, answering the question that you have, and telling you what the most important things that jump out at me about your chart are. So that's going to be under the mini human design reading at my website, askgrace.info. And if you want to go deeper and more personalized, this is a 2 hour session for the deep dive. There's a partnership assessment, which is usually a 3 90-minute sessions. And this is where we look at your chart in detail for an hour and a half. Then we look at your partner's chart in detail for an hour and a half. And then we look at your what we call a connection chart. It's the entity of the third being that is created between the two of you. And that is really valuable to understand what the patterns are in this connection. What can you expect? How can you maximize the potential of this relationship? How can you understand each other? I'll give you a quick example. One of my clients was on the brink of divorce. She had been married for 20 years, so frustrated, a generator type. Her husband was a projector, it turns out, and she wanted him to work around the house with her, to do things. And he was not really interested in that. And he didn't have a lot of energy for it. And he just, he's a projector. And so she expected him to be like a generator, but she didn't even know anything at that point about generators and projectors, which is a very common pairing, by the way. So I worked with them together over a period of weeks, and it changed the course of their lives because they were on the brink of divorce and they realized that they didn't have to break up the marriage. They had invested quite a bit and a lot in, and they loved each other and they wanted to stay together. So as soon as they understood how they were different and how they were so complementary, if they were able to respect the differences and how to maximize their partnership, it changed their marriage, and they're very happy now. So that is just one story of many, but that's an example of what you can do with a partnership assessment, because you get to see both of you, and then the third entity that's created between the two of you. The next one is Activate Your Life Purpose. I have a special website to make it easy to go to that one, activateyourlifepurpose.com. That'll just take you straight to that scheduling page, just because so many people are interested in living in alignment right now and activating, understanding what is their life purpose. And so this is a 2-hour session. Basically, in the first hour, we do a deep dive on your chart. And then the second hour, we look at the 4 key codes that are part of your incarnation cross. And the incarnation cross makes up 70% of who you are. But here's the trick. You can't really step into or unlock those codes until you're living in alignment, at least your strategy and your authority. So that's why this is a 2-hour session. So in the first hour, we talk about what is your strategy and your authority, looking at the rest of your chart, the totality of it. And then we get into those 4 codes, and we look at your gene keys as well, which is very powerful to help you understand the themes that you're here to explore and to master in this lifetime. And when you see that, I mean, that alone can be life changing. When I first got into mine, I cried, honestly cried, and it was just like, oh my gosh. It starts out with, you're a hopeless romantic, and despite despite all these romantic disappointments, you're always and partly because of them, you're going to go into a process of transformation, and you're going to transform everyone around you as well. So that just made me cry, because I thought, what am I, doomed to have constant romantic disappointments? But the fact of the matter is, that's not true. You don't have to, but until you learn about your design and you learn what you're here for, life can be frustrating and very painful, and actually we learn a lot from those lessons. But this is a very powerful package as well, Activate Your Life Purpose. Right now, everything on my website is 50% off. I'm in the process of revising it, so if you want to get something at a good deal, this is the week to schedule it. And if you're not sure what's best for you, then do a quick call and we'll talk about it. We'll talk about options. I'm certainly not going to hard sell you anything. I am going to encourage you to listen to your inner guidance system, which is what we talked about today. So, and if you want me to do a sacral session with you to help you decide what's correct for you, I'm not going to manipulate you at all. I'm going to help you tune into your inner guidance system. That's what this is about. And so now it's time for questions and answers.